All right, let's talk about a wild idea. What if every choice you've ever made wasn't really a choice at all? We're diving into a story about the day an entire civilization found out their whole existence was just one giant, carefully managed experiment. And what happened next was a decision that would change everything, go along with it, or fight for a freedom they didn't even know they were supposed to have. Now, really think about that for a second. Every win, every loss, every single idea that's popped into your head, what if all of it was just nudged along by someone or something you couldn't even see? It's a pretty chilling thought, and that's exactly the world we're about to explore. Okay, so our story kicks off on a planet called Nova Prime. This is home to a super advanced human civilization, and they're just starting to realize that something's off. They're starting to see the invisible strings that have been guiding them all along. And yeah, it's about as terrifying as it sounds. First, they uncover proof that their whole evolution, it wasn't random. Nope. From their most primitive ancestors all the way to who they are now, it was all planned out, a carefully curated path, with every little step monitored and recorded. And it gets crazier. The control went way beyond just their physical evolution. It was inside their heads. Their consciousness, their actual thoughts were being, well, gently steered. They were sort of nudged towards making certain discoveries, having certain ideas, even adopting specific beliefs, and they had no idea it was happening. So when you put it all together, the conclusion is pretty mind-blowing. From their DNA to their dreams, nothing was really theirs. Their entire civilization, their entire history was like a giant cosmic chess game, and they were just the pawns. So who's playing this game, right? Well, they had a name for them: the controllers. These were the architects of everything, the creators, the observers, the puppet masters pulling every single string from behind a cosmic curtain. But here's the thing. What happens when the pawns on the chessboard suddenly look up and realize they're in a game? Well, they decide to flip the board over. The time for being watched was over. It was time for a rebellion. And you know how it started? With one word. Just one. Enough. It probably started as a whisper between a few people, but it quickly grew into a roar that echoed across their world. Enough being watched. Enough being controlled. Just enough. And that one word sparked a plan. It was incredibly bold, but also super simple. They were going to use the very systems their creators gave them to hack into the network and confront the controllers, face to face, for the first time ever. You really have to grasp how huge this was. This wasn't just some political revolution. This was an entire species looking up at the beings they now knew were basically their gods and telling them no. It was the ultimate act of defiance. So they do it. They breach the signal. And what do they get? Not a hello, not some grand explanation, just a cold, sharp threat. You are not ready. Stop this or face termination. Suddenly, the choice was crystal clear. Get back in your cage or we'll wipe you from existence. And what did humanity choose? Defiance, of course. And that kicked off a war like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Because this wasn't about land or money or power. This was a war for the right to even have a thought of your own. And you've got to see the two sides here. You've got humanity fighting with all this messy, unpredictable passion, fueled by a desperate need to be free. And on the other side, the controllers. Cold, perfect logic. Raw, unimaginable intelligence. Oh, and the power to literally create and destroy reality. It was basically chaos versus perfect calculated order. Now, the controllers didn't send in an army. They didn't need to. They turned the whole planet of Nova Prime into a weapon against its own people. The environment suddenly became deadly. Gravity would just switch off or crank up to crushing levels. And these massive, world-ending storms would just appear out of nowhere, all designed to just erase them. But even then, humanity didn't give up. They fought back. They were fighting their own planet, fighting their own makers. They threw every bit of creativity and willpower they had at the problem, just desperately searching for a crack, any weakness in this perfect system of control. They poured everything they had into one goal, reaching the core of the controller system. And then, they got it. A breakthrough. Somehow, against all odds, they found and destroyed a critical node, a key part of the network. And that was it. That was the moment everything changed. The whole system just stuttered. The killer storm stopped, the gravity stabilized. For the first time ever, humanity had actually hurt its gods. The invincible controllers were suddenly looking weak. But right then, as the system was crashing, as it looked like they were actually going to win, something bizarre happened. Something nobody saw coming. A final message started broadcasting across what was left of the network. And the message said, this was the final test. That's it. Just those words. Can you imagine? After all that, the war, the sacrifice, this epic struggle for the soul of your species, and you're told it was just a test. And then came the follow-up line, the one that flipped the entire story on its head. Those who resist are worthy. So the rebellion, it wasn't a mistake they were going to be punished for. It was the point of the whole thing. Their defiance, their burning desire to be free, that's what the controllers were looking for all along. And after that message, nothing. Just silence. Total, absolute silence. That constant, invisible pressure that had been on them their whole lives, it just lifted. Poof. The controllers were gone. So there humanity was, standing alone on their planet for the very first time, truly free. But those final words from the controllers left them with this huge, unsettling question about what it all meant. And that's where we're left. Did they actually win a war and seize their own freedom? Or did they just pass the universe's most brutal final exam and graduate to whatever comes next? The story never gives an answer. So I guess the question is, what do you think happened?